Of interviewing and speaking with a founding member of Clear, Terry Mullen, who is not only a founding member of Clear, but the senior manager of organized retail crime with CVS.
Happy to be here.
Former law enforcement, transitioned over to the private sector,
That's
right?
correct.
Former head of the Florida chapter of FBI-NA?
Yes, I was a past president of the...
Past president.
Yep, the Florida chapter of the FBI National Academy.
All right, so founding member of Clear, you were there for the very first one. How'd we do?
This was probably one of the best events that I've been to in the retail world. So,
Yeah.
Yep, it was very well received.
If you remember all the way back, Reno, Nevada, probably about a decade ago or so, when we thought that, if we had 100 people here, it would be a big deal. We had almost 700 people here this year.
That's correct. The feedback I'm getting from all the participants has been outstanding.
So let's talk about the transition from law enforcement into the private sector and how challenging that was, especially when you transitioned, is much different than transitioning today, right?
Well, that's correct. I've been with CVS for 13 years. The transition for me into the organized retail crime team, there was a learning curve with, learning the systems of retail. But after about 3 to 4 months, we're investigators without a badge, protecting the corporate assets and profitability.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And events like this, especially even being former law enforcement, obviously, that gives you a little bit of leeway. It makes conversations a little bit easier with law enforcement. But how important, let's tell our audience how important it is for coming to events like this, having that opportunity to network with law enforcement officers, with detectives, special agents, command staff, etc. How important is that?
Oh, I think it's extremely important that you make those relationships, that you can, pick up a telephone and have a personal relationship when you're presenting an issue on behalf of your company. Any
content you really enjoyed this week?
I liked all the training that we had here. Lou Holtz,
everybody liked Lou. Everybody liked Coach.
He knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yep.
That was the big surprise. We teased that all week long. So that was, I've seen him, many times doing speeches such as that, keynote addresses, and the humor that he brings to the table is, he has the whole room laughing, right? So let's talk about, organized retail crime and the challenges that are being faced today, where that goes, what's happening out there.
Well, since COVID, we've seen, the whole country has, we saw a huge increase in, repeat offenders, coming into our stores. It's a multi-million, billion-dollar business, organized retail crime. Our team is set up strategically across the United States to protect our assets and work with law enforcement and our retail partners to combat it.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's tough out there, and it's, these organizations are really getting it going. They're businesses, right?
That's correct.
They've got drive, they've got focus, and it's a challenge to stay in front of them sometimes.
That's correct. I mean, they're large scale, they're complex, they're multi-jurisdictional.
Which makes it very difficult sometimes when you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get this thing prosecuted?
That's correct. And, you have to leverage, our federal, state, and local prosecutors, and we work jointly with them, hand in hand with them, and together with law enforcement.
Yeah, and you being a senior leader, I consider you a senior leader because your law enforcement background and your time at CVS, your time here with the Clear organization as well as FleePru. How important is it for those guys that are in the trenches, that are, the workers, the hard workers out there on the front line? How important is it for them to make their way to a conference like this, to build relationships, to learn, to educate themselves?
Well, education and networking is always evolving, right? So it's extremely important. It's extremely important for your career and for self-development.
And when it comes to Clear, I mean, you go to a lot of conferences, obviously, and a lot of the times with various conferences that go on around the country, sometimes you get that regurgitation of the same content. I don't think that ever happens at Clear. We're always bringing new content and new information to the organizations, both on the public and private sector side.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The training here has been phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Terry. Great seeing you once again, my friend. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. It's JC coming at you live, 2022 Clear down here in Orlando, Florida. Stay tuned. More great content to come.